Chapter 730. An awkward scene. Chen Yutian didn't continue, believing that Ling Shan would understand. Marriage is just a small thing. Even if I marry you, I won't be able to help you if there's a conflict between House Qin and House Song, Ling Shan said faintly. So, even though we're brothers now and I don't dare say anything about House Song when the time comes, I'll personally support you. I'm happy to hear that. Chen Yutian smiled. Lin Yi left the ICU and went straight to Tang Yun's room. Mrs. Tang had woken up early this morning wanting to buy a house. She couldn't sleep until the wee hours of the morning because of the family's big event. She opened the door for Lin Yi. Mrs. Tang was all smiles. You're here. And where's Tang Yun? Lin Yi asked after seeing that Tang Yun wasn't in the room. In the washroom. We're buying a house today, so she woke up early to wash up. Mrs. Tang said. Have you guys had breakfast? When are we leaving? Lin Yi asked. Not yet, we're just going to grab a bite on the way, Mrs. Tang said. Right, I want to discuss something with you. What is it? Lin Yi sat on the sofa waiting for Tang Yun. What do you think? Should I use the money to buy a retail store and start a small business with your Uncle Tang? Or should I put the money in the bank and earn interest? Mrs. Tang was conflicted. 3 million in the bank, there's at least 100,000 in interest, right? What can I do to earn that much money back? Lin Yi wasn't good at managing finances, or else he wouldn't have let Fatty Lai manage the company. I'll ask my friend later. See what he says. He's an experienced businessman. It's good. Let's ask him then. Mrs. Tang nodded. Tang Yun finished washing up and came out of the bathroom. She was still in her pajamas. She didn't expect Lin Yi to come so early. She was washing her hair in the bathroom and couldn't hear anything from outside under the sound of the water. So when Lin Yi came, she was shocked. The summer pajamas were thin and Tang Yun wasn't wearing a bra. Her breasts were exposed and her body was exposed. Tang Yun saw Lin Yi staring at her. She was a little embarrassed, but at the same time she was happy. Tang Yun would be sad if Lin Yi wasn't interested in her. However, the situation was a bit embarrassing and the two hadn't reached that point yet. Tang Yun lowered her head, took off her coat and rushed into the washroom without saying anything to Lin Yi. Mrs. Tang didn't know what was wrong with her daughter. She didn't say anything when she saw Lin Yi. Why was she throwing a tantrum? Do you really think you're the young miss? She couldn't help but feel a little angry. She got up to open the bathroom door and scolded, Yun, what are you doing? Why aren't you greeting Lil Yi? I'm getting dressed. Tang Yun was startled. She had just taken off her pajamas and her chest was in a vacuum state. She was shocked when the bathroom door was opened, but she let out a sigh of relief when she saw her mother. Just get dressed. Lil Yi isn't an outsider. It's not a big deal if he looks. I don't know what you're thinking about all day. Mrs. Tang felt that she had to hold on to Lin Yi's son-in-law tightly. It hadn't been long and they were already a millionaire. Wouldn't they have billions and billions in the future? She didn't think that she had the potential to be a rich woman. Mrs. Tang was happy. She was thinking about how to make her daughter hold on to Lin Yi's heart. She didn't want her beautiful life to be ruined if they really broke up. Tang Yun was angry and embarrassed. She glared at her mother. She didn't know what her mother was thinking. She was a girl, wasn't she afraid of losing out? What are you looking at? Hurry up and get dressed. You woke up early to go to the market. The good houses will be sold later. What do you think? Mrs. Tang was in a hurry to look at the houses. She didn't have money in the past, so she didn't think about these things. But now that she had money, she was afraid that the good spots would be taken by others. Okay, I'm dressed. Tang Yun got dressed. It was a normal shirt and the new shorts she bought yesterday. It was a good match. She walked out of the bathroom with her mother. Tang Yun was a little embarrassed and didn't dare to look at Lin Yi. On the other hand, Lin Yi's eyes lit up when he saw that Tang Yun wasn't wearing her school uniform. The flaws couldn't hide the beauty. Although the clothes Tang Yun was wearing were cheap street stalls, it was still very beautiful on Tang Yun. Lin Yi called Fatty Lai. Fatty Lai heard that Tang Yun's family was going to buy a house today, so he prepared early in the morning and waited for Lin Yi and Tang Yun to come. Speaking of Fatty Lai, he didn't sleep at all last night. He was working overtime in the factory, urging the workers to make the antidote for the deadly 7 herbs poison. They were finally done at 2 in the morning and shipped to the hospital without a moment's delay. After using it on the unconscious students, all of them were awake. Their bodies were still weak, but they were no longer in danger. It had to be said that the effect of the antidote was very obvious. Although it wasn't the legendary cure, the effect was already very effective in most people's eyes. Especially the parents of the students, they were very grateful to Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Company. When they were interviewed by the reporters, they didn't hesitate to praise Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Company. As for the responsibility of the school and Pingshan Industries, it was negligible. The culprit had already turned himself in and the culprit had already been investigated. Every debt has its debtor, so the parents wouldn't blame the school for it. Moreover, the students were fine now, so it wasn't good for them to continue making trouble. After all, in front of Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Company's willingness to help, they would become the public enemy if they continued to hold on to this matter. Fatty Lai, on the other hand, had made it very clear when he delivered the medicine. It was all because of his personal relationship with Pingshan that he had worked overtime to make the medicine. What else could the parents say? The parents who wanted to transfer schools also calmed down. It had nothing to do with their children. Why would they transfer schools? The situation was very clear now. The school wasn't a bioterrorism base and it wasn't because of lax management. Someone deliberately poisoned the students. This was unavoidable everywhere and other schools might not be safe. Thus this matter came to an end. Pingshan would hold a press conference today. After Fatty Lai was done with these matters, he waited to help Lin Yi buy a house. Chapter 731. Parking conflict. Yes, where is it? Lin Yi asked. It's at 528 Chongdong Avenue. The building is called Chongxiang Garden. You'll see it when you come here, Fatty Lai said. Okay, you go ahead with your work. I'll be there in a while. I'll call you when I've decided on the unit. Lin Yi said. After hanging up the phone, Lin Yi turned to Mrs. Tang and said, Auntie, let's go pick out a house later. I'll get someone to give us a discount based on the house size we like. There's a better discount? That's great. Mrs. Tang liked to take advantage of others, so when she heard what Lin Yi said, she was elated. She heard that the real estate was already on sale, so how could she not be happy if she could get a discount on top of that? She increasingly felt that Lin Yi was a good man. If her daughter were to follow him, she wouldn't have to worry about anything in the future. The three of them sat in Lin Yi's van and headed towards Chongdong Avenue. Although Lin Yi's car wasn't much, Mrs. Tang thought it was good enough to have a car. How many people in the shantytown owned a car? Tang Yun, did you ask for leave? Lin Yi was used to skipping class, but Tang Yun was a good student, so she rarely skipped class. There was a poisoning incident at school yesterday, so there's no class today. I heard that the chairman of Pingshan Industries is going to hold a press conference, and many students and parents are going to attend. So the school is temporarily self-studying. Tang Yun thought of Meng Yao when she mentioned the chairman of Pingshan Industries. Meng Yao gave Tang Yun the feeling that she didn't have the bad habits of rich kids at all. She was a little arrogant, but she was easy to get along with. Chongxiang Garden's location was not bad. Chongdong Avenue was one of the newly built Third Ring Road this year. Hence, on the first day of Chongxiang Garden's opening, it attracted many property buyers. The entrance of Chongxiang Garden's sales office was already filled with cars. It took him a while to find a parking spot and he parked the car in. A horn sounded from behind him, followed by a man cursing loudly. Where the hell did you come from, J8 van? I saw this spot first, why'd you take it away from me? Motherfucker, pour it out. Lin Yi frowned and got out of the car, only to see a bald man sticking his head out of a BMW parked behind his car and cursing. Watch your mouth, don't get yourself into trouble. Lin Yi glanced at him indifferently and said, Fuck, I don't know what to do with a broken bread. The bald man didn't expect Lin Yi to dare to talk back and threaten him. He immediately became angry. Do you believe that I won't kill you? With that said, the bald man started the car and rushed toward Lin Yi. Of course, he was just trying to scare Lin Yi. He wouldn't dare to crash into him. After all, if he killed someone in front of everyone, he wouldn't be able to get away with it. At that time, he was afraid that he would go to jail. Although he had money, this kind of thing wasn't easy to settle. Lin Yi smiled faintly. Just as the BMW was about to slam into him, Lin Yi raised his leg and kicked the hood of the BMW, causing it to stop abruptly. The bald man was shocked. There was actually someone who could step on a car and stop it? Who is this person? He suddenly felt guilty. Although he often went out to act bad asterisk, he still didn't dare to act bad asterisk when he encountered such a ruthless character. If he didn't act well, he would be beaten up. Therefore, although the bald man was angry, he didn't dare to do anything to Lin Yi. He stopped the car and quickly got out. He found that the hood of his car was stepped on. He was even more afraid, but he didn't want to show weakness. He snorted coldly, "Kid, you're good. Let's wait and see." He didn't dare to let Lin Yi repair his car, and he didn't care about the repair fee. He said ruthless words to regain some face. He was the boss of the Shinsuan taxi company. He had some money on hand. Today he came to buy a house with the money he had just bought. Naturally, he didn't want to let the boss look down on him. Heh. Lin Yi smiled faintly and didn't say anything. This kind of person was almost everywhere, so Lin Yi didn't need to be angry because of this kind of person. The bald man glared at Lin Yi and returned to the car. He said to the woman in the front passenger seat, "What is he? He doesn't know how to drive a broken car. He's just a bumpkin. Watch how I deal with him later." Kyo-woo, don't bother with this kind of person. Being angry with him is degrading. How could the woman not see that her man didn't dare to go head-on with Lin Yi? However, she wouldn't say it out loud. If she did, Kyo-woo would be angry and forget about buying a house. Yeah, it seems like they are here to buy a house. When the time comes, let's see what they want to buy and give them a hard time. Kyo-woo nodded, started the car and went to find another parking space. Tang Yun and Mrs. Tang got out of the car. They also saw the scene before, but they didn't know what exactly happened. Since Lin Yi had solved it, there was no need to ask. The three of them walked into the sales center. Immediately, a sales lady greeted them and began to introduce the real estate in Chongxiang Garden to Mrs. Tang. It had to be said that Fatty Lie's management was quite good. Mrs. Tang didn't look like a rich person, but the sales lady didn't look down on her because of that. Is there a discount for buying a house here? Mrs. Tang was most concerned about the discount. She didn't wait for the sales lady to finish her introduction and asked. She didn't care if there were schools around the house or if there was a business district. What she cared about was the price of the house. The price was cheap, but it didn't matter if there was nothing else. Her daughter was going to university. What did it matter to her whether there was a school or not? Not to mention the business district. Other than the wholesale market, her family's food and necessities came from the night market. They couldn't afford to go to those high-end shopping malls. Yes, there is a promotion today. All the units are 5% off, and if you buy the house in full, you can enjoy a 10% discount. You also have a chance to win the grand prize of the exquisite renovation. The sales lady said. Can't it be cheaper? Mrs. Tang asked. This is the price set by the boss. We don't have the right to change it, the sales lady smiled. Okay, then let's look at the location and the units. Mrs. Tang nodded. The sales lady brought Lin Yi and the others to look at the sand table. Mrs. Tang chose a building with better lighting and location and said, I want this building, right? Do you have the floor plan? Yes, please wait a moment. The sales lady found the floor plan and passed it to Mrs. Tang. Chapter 732. Don't treat me like this in the future, Auntie. You really have good taste. This building is one of the best locations in the entire district, second only to the villas and the bungalows over there. Not only does it have a good view, there aren't any tall buildings blocking it, it's very spacious. The sales lady introduced. Lily-Ian, what do you guys think? What type of apartment do you guys think we should get? Mrs. Tang couldn't make up her mind. It was easy to choose a building from the sand table. It was easy to see which location was good and which wasn't. The building that Mrs. Tang chose was in a good location and the price wasn't too high. This was something that Mrs. Tang and Tang Yin agreed on. There were many different types of apartments in this building, and they had to discuss which one to choose and which floor to go with. Mrs. Tang was excited at first, thinking that buying a house was easy. But now that she was standing here, she realized that buying a house wasn't that easy. At least for now, Mrs. Tang was a little dizzy. Every floor had its own benefits. The first floor could be used for business, the second and third floors were more convenient for older people, the fourth and fifth floors were the golden floors, and the sixth and seventh floors were cheap and had a good view. It wasn't easy to choose. Let's get a 3-bedroom unit? Lin Yi looked at the layout and suggested, I think this unit is not bad. Lin Yi saw the hesitation on Mrs. Tang's face and suggested. That's fine, we'll go with this unit then. This unit is 120 square meters, isn't it a little big? Mrs. Tang was afraid that it would be too expensive. Auntie, if you look at this unit, you have to hurry up because there is only one unit left on the third floor. The others have been sold. The sales lady said, it can be seen that this unit is very good. Everyone's judgment is not wrong. But only the third floor is left? Mrs. Tang was shocked and nervous. This unit was too easy to sell, wasn't it? She wanted to decide, but she couldn't make the decision. After all, she had never made a decision like this in her life. Let's go with the third floor, the lighting is good and it's easy to go upstairs. Linny smiled. Okay, then the third floor will pick this one. Mrs. Tang nodded. Can we look at the existing house? That's naturally not a problem. Please follow me. The sales lady nodded and said to the other customers nearby, is there anyone else who wants to see the quality of the existing houses? I'm heading over now. Follow me if you're with me. Let's go too. The bald boss Wu walked over with his mistress and said proudly. Under the watchful eyes of the public, he was not afraid of Lin Yi. There were security guards here. He did not believe that Lin Yi would dare to hit him. If he really hit someone, he would definitely make him suffer the consequences. With his power in Songshan City, how could he not be able to kill a kid driving a van? Lin Yi saw that the bald boss Wu also came to join in the fun, but he didn't bother with him. He sneered at him. If he wanted to follow, then so be it. He had no reason to chase away the guy who came to give money to Fatty Lai. They left the sales office with the sales lady and got on an electric car. The bald boss Wu's perverted eyes glanced at Tang Yun's body and then looked at Lin Yi with jealousy. This girl was so beautiful, but she was taken by this poor kid. God must be blind. He looked at the mistress beside him. Obviously she was not just one level lower than him. If Tang Yun was his mistress, he would buy her a villa, not to mention this building. The bald boss Wu was thinking about how to show off his strength in front of Tang Yun. He had to admit that the bald boss Wu was very good at reading people. He could see that Tang Yun's mother was a typical greedy woman. If he offered enough benefits, Mrs. Tang would persuade her daughter to follow him. So, as long as he was strong enough and made that little bastard Lin Yi suffer, he wouldn't have to worry about not being able to get the beauty back. Thinking up to this point, Xiao Wu was overjoyed. His hand that was hugging his mistress became naughty. His mistress was also flirtatious. She panted on the electric scooter, making the sales lady and Tang Yun blush. They thought, why is this person like this? Doesn't he know shame? If he wanted to touch her, he could touch her at home. Why did he touch her here? Lin Yi squeezed Tang Yun's hand and smiled. Tang Yun was even more embarrassed. She glared at Lin Yi and whispered, don't do this to me in the future. But you're different from her. The woman beside the bald boss Wu is just playing with you. Lin Yi understood. Then you aren't just playing with me? Tang Yun was nervous. Although she had an answer in her heart, the Miss Yushu, Guan Exen and even Ling Shan made her feel uneasy. I'm just playing with you, Lin Yi smiled. You're so annoying. Why do you sound so bad? Tang Yun got the answer she wanted and pouted. Xiao Wu looked at Lin Yi and Tang Yun flirting with each other in front of him. His eyes were red with jealousy. Motherfucker, he had to get his hands on this girl. Mrs. Tang's mind was filled with the house. She didn't hear the flirting sounds between the bald boss Wu and his mistress. She didn't hear the whispers between her daughter and Lin Yi. Her mind was completely focused on the surrounding environment and the houses. There was such a beautiful area. Mrs. Tang's eyes widened as she looked at the green construction. Compared to the previous shanty town, this was 100 times, 1,000 times better. There was a small park, a pavilion, a man-made lake, and the houses were so beautiful. If she could live in this area in the future, wouldn't she become a rich person? High-class person? We're here. It's here. The sales lady parked the electric scooter in front of a beautiful building. Wow, it's so beautiful. Mrs. Tang looked at the building in front of her. The more she looked at it, the more she liked it. We can see the park downstairs from here? It's not bad. Yeah, that's why this building is selling fast. This kind of big apartment is quite popular. Now there's only the third floor left. If you like it, you should hurry up and sign the contract. Otherwise, it might be taken by someone else. The sales lady nodded. Mrs. Tang became anxious after hearing the sales lady's words. She nodded, then let's go up and take a look first. Hubby, it's so beautiful here. Can you buy it for me? The mistress, who hadn't spoken until now, suddenly spoke to the bald boss Wu. Chapter 733. Raising the price, you are too good to me. The honey hugged the bald man and kissed him fiercely before going upstairs with the sales lady. Mrs. Tang fell in love with the new house on the third floor. Wasn't it too beautiful? bright floor-to-ceiling windows, a comfortable layout, and a large living room. It was the dream house that was often seen on TV. Mrs. Tang gritted her teeth and decided to buy it. She must buy it. This house was too beautiful. How much is this house? Mrs. Tang asked nervously. Auntie, this house is 950,000, the sales lady said after looking at the sales booklet. That's expensive. Mrs. Tang's heart ached. Although she just received 3 million yesterday, she didn't want to give away the money in her hands. She asked, "Can this house be any cheaper?" "I'm sorry, Auntie, my authority is limited to the discounts I mentioned before. If you want more discounts, you will have to talk to our boss personally. However, if you are only buying one house, the boss probably won't give you any discounts," the sales lady said honestly. "Only 950,000? So cheap?" Pio Wu spoke up. "What discounts do you need for 950,000? It's too cheap even if you don't want those discounts, right?" As he spoke, Pio Wu glanced at his mistress beside him. "Yeah, this money is just a drop in the bucket for you, President Wu. It's nothing." The mistress also echoed, "It's too cheap." Tang Yun couldn't help but feel annoyed after hearing their words. What were they trying to say? They weren't the ones buying the house. Why were they involved? Tang Yun glared at Xiao Wu and his mistress. Mrs. Tang was also very angry. Were these two here to cause trouble? Pio Wu saw that Tang Yun was looking at him and thought that Tang Yun was looking at him. He was overjoyed and got carried away. "Shaoli, what do you think of this house? If it's okay, I'll buy it for you." "Yeah, I like it very much. We will buy this set." Xiaomi, who was called Shaoli, nodded and said happily. Lin Yi snickered in his heart. These two must have teamed up to come here to show off, right? Keep pretending. Let's see how long you can pretend for. "Miss, I want this house. Let's sign the contract." Baldy Xiao Wu said to the sales lady. "Sir, this house was seen by this auntie first. Do you want to wait for this auntie to make a decision before you consider it?" The sales lady asked with some embarrassment. "You saw her first? What's wrong with liking her? He hadn't bought it yet, had he? If they didn't buy it, it doesn't belong to them." Baldy Xiao Wu snorted coldly. "Do you know how to do things properly? Whoever pays first gets to hand over the money. They haven't even signed the contract yet. Hurry up and sign it for us. We'll buy it. We'll buy it right now." Mrs. Tang panicked. She had worked so hard to get her eyes on the house. How could it be snatched away by someone else? "No, absolutely not. We said we wanted to buy it first. You're too late." Shaoli rolled her eyes at Mrs. Tang in disdain. "Look at how poor you are. You can't afford this house. You should save your money and buy a bungalow in the countryside." "Why can't we afford it? We saw it first, so we have the priority to buy it." Tang Yun was furious when she heard Xiao Li's words. She glared at Xiao Li and retorted. "Forget it. There's no point in arguing with you." Baldy Xiao Wu wanted to show off his strong image. He turned to the sales lady and said, "How about this? 950,000 yuan. I don't want any of the discounts. Hurry up and sign the contract." The sales lady was in a dilemma. If Xiao Wu didn't want a discount, then she would definitely be praised by the boss after she sold the house. Her bonus this month wouldn't be small. But if she did that, it would be unfair to Mrs. Tang's family. Isn't there a saying that goes like this? The highest bidder wins. If we offer a higher price, it belongs to us. What are you hesitating for? Xiao Li said to the sales lady and looked at Mrs. Tang provocatively. "We don't want the discount. If you don't want the discount, we will sell it to you. Can you not want it?" Mrs. Tang's face turned red. How could there be such a person? However, she really needed the discount. "We don't want the discount either," Tang Yun said. Although her heart ached, Lin Yi was holding her hand from behind. She knew that it was Lin Yi's intention, so she said it. "Oh." Baldy Xiao Wu was surprised. He didn't expect Tang Yun to be so decisive. However, how could he give up the house that he got? On one hand, he couldn't afford to lose face in front of his mistress. On the other hand, he wanted to show off his strength in front of Tang Yun and her mother. If he ran away with his tail between his legs, how could he show off his strength? Thinking of this, Baldy gritted his teeth and said, "How about this? I'll pay 1 million. Sign the contract." The sales lady was dumbfounded. She had only heard of rich people bidding against each other to buy villas, but she had never heard of people bidding against each other to buy a normal house. Moreover, the price increased by 50,000 yuan. Wasn't this too unbelievable? 1 million. What are you waiting for? Don't you want your bonus? If your boss knew that you didn't want the money, he would fire you. Shaoli threatened the sales lady. This. The sales lady looked at Mrs. Tang awkwardly. We will pay 1 million too. Tang Yun had no choice but to raise the price. Since Lin Yi was hinting for her to continue bidding, Tang Yun didn't want to, but she still made a bid. Xiao Wu frowned. He didn't expect Tang Yun to raise the price with him. Did they have that much money? Driving a broken van wasn't even worth 20,000 yuan. She dared to raise the price by 50,000 yuan? Could it be that he really wanted to go against him? However, Xiao Wu couldn't show weakness now. If Tang Yun could afford it, why couldn't he? He was the boss of Xian Cun Taxi Company. It was the biggest taxi company in Songshan. He had Xihua Bro's support. If he really gave up today and left with his tail between his legs, not only would he lose his face, but he would also lose Xihua Bro's face. So, even if Xiao Wu felt that it wasn't worth it to increase the price to buy a house, he had no choice. He had no way out now. He could only bite the bullet and say, 1,100,000 yuan. I don't have time to waste with them. Hurry up and sign the contract. Chapter 734. Who are you talking about? Spending 1 million yuan on a 950,000 yuan house? Is this for real? In front of this building 1 million could buy a house that was even bigger than this one. The location and lighting were also similar. We'll pay 1 million too. Tang Yun said and saw Lin Yi squeezing her hand again. We'll pay 15 million. Xiao Wu looked at Tang Yun in disbelief. She dared to pay a higher price than him? Where did she get her confidence from? Was she trying to look impressive? But seeing Lin Yi's actions, Xiao Wu understood that Lin Yi was going against him. Great, you still dare to increase the price? He felt that Lin Yi's limit was 15 million. Otherwise, why didn't he pay 2 million? He didn't have much money left, he couldn't pay that much. Therefore Xiao Wu gritted his teeth and said, 2 million. 2 million, hurry up and sign the contract. On the other hand, Xiao Wu felt that spending 2 million yuan to buy a 950,000 yuan house was a bit extravagant, but he had successfully gained face. He had also successfully displayed his strength in front of Mrs. Tang and Tang Yun. He felt a sense of accomplishment. This was the first step to success. Then he just needed to humiliate Lin Yi and he could talk to Mrs. Tang about Tang Yun being Tang Yun's sugar daddy. Well, then I'll sell it to you. Let's look at the others. Tang Yun got Lin Yi's hint and shook her head. This one isn't ideal. 2 million isn't worth it. Not worth it? I think you guys don't have money? Shaoli said sarcastically. She was very happy in her heart. Baldy Boss Wu had bought such an expensive house for her, which made her feel very proud. We don't spend money recklessly. Tang Yun pouted. Luckily, Lin Yi only asked Baldy Xiao Wu to spend some money and didn't use his own money to buy a house. Otherwise, Tang Yun would have fallen asleep at the thought of spending an extra 25 yuan on a house. Seeing that Tang Yun's family had given up, the sales lady didn't make things difficult for them anymore. Since someone was willing to pay a high price to buy the house, why not? Sir, shall we sign the contract now? The sales lady asked. Nonsense. I finally succeeded in the bidding. What if someone else snatches it from me? Baldy Xiao Wu glared at the real estate sales lady and shouted. Okay, then we'll go back to the sales office to sign the contract. The sales lady looked at Mrs. Tang apologetically. Auntie, why don't you come back with me? I'll help you find another good house. Okay. Mrs. Tang had no other choice. She didn't want to spend another 250,000 yuan on a house. Moreover, Mrs. Tang wanted to make it cheaper on this basis. Can't your daughter find this boyfriend? What's the big deal about spending 25 more? It's just a piece of cake for me. Baldy Xiao Wu went downstairs and casually said to Mrs. Tang when he got on the electric car. Mrs. Tang glared at him and didn't reply. She thought to herself, if my son-in-law was an idiot like you, adding 200,000 yuan to buy a house, that would be unacceptable. Since my son-in-law is buying a house for me, the cheaper the better. Baldy shrugged his shoulders when Mrs. Tang didn't reply. He started hugging his sweetheart again. This person is so annoying. Tang Yun complained to Lin Yi softly after getting on the car. There are so many houses. Why would I be afraid that I can't find a suitable one? Let alone 250,000 yuan. I can afford it even if it's 1 million yuan. But can Auntie accept it? Lin Yi smiled. Of course not. You should find a cheaper one for her. Otherwise, if she really spends too much money, she'll get sick. Tang Yun sighed. She understood her mother's personality. The six of them returned to the sales office. The sales lady first signed the contract for Baldy Co. Wu. The contract was ready-made. She just downloaded it from the computer and printed it. Baldy Co. Wu waved his pen and was about to sign his name on the contract. His sweetheart was a little unhappy. Didn't we agree to write my name? Why did it change again? This. Baldy Co. Wu shifted his target to Tang Yun. No matter how he looked at it, Tang Yun was much stronger than Shaoli, so he didn't want to invest too much in Shaoli, so he played a trick when he signed the contract. He didn't expect Shaoli to be so smart, pointing it out right away. I forgot. Baldy Co. Wu laughed. He was showing off in front of Tang Yun and her mother. How could he show weakness now? If Mrs. Tang thought that he was stingy and didn't even buy a house for a woman, then why would she help him persuade Tang Yun? Shaoli wrote her name on the paper with a smile and kissed Boss Wu happily. So you can pay now. May I know if you want to pay in cash or by bank card? The sales lady was very happy that she sold a house. Her boss would definitely praise her if she sold it for an extra 250,000 yuan, right? Nonsense. Of course by bank card. Who would bring more than 1 million yuan out of the house? Isn't that an idiot who has never seen money? Baldy stared at the sales lady unhappily and took out a bank card. Fuck you. Who are you calling an idiot? A big guy carrying a big black plastic bag suddenly appeared out of nowhere. He grabbed the bald Co. Wu's collar and said, Do you want to die? Brother, I'm sorry. I wasn't talking about you. Co. Wu was shocked. This big guy gave him a much stronger visual impact than Lin Yi. Although Lin Yi was quite powerful and could stop the car with a kick, he wasn't that big. Baldy Wu didn't think that he was that scary. However, this big guy in a black singlet with tattoos all over his body gave Baldy Co. Wu a shock. Moreover, even if the security guards came, he was the one in the wrong. Who asked him to call someone an idiot. Therefore Co. Wu quickly apologized. I don't have time to waste with you, Baldy. I can use this bag of money to kill you. The big guy was obviously in a hurry to do something. He let go of Co. Wu and left, which made Co. Wu heave a sigh of relief. Spending 250,000 for a house? Did he hear it wrong? But when he saw the contract the sales lady handed over, he believed that it wasn't a joke. Manager Wang was puzzled. What was the relationship between Co. Lai Lin Yi and the auntie who participated in the bidding? If he agreed to let him draw the lottery a few more times, would he offend Co. Lai? So he couldn't help but look at Lai Changyi. He might not win even if he draws a few more times. Mrs. Tang curled her lips and said with disdain. Manager Wang heard Mrs. Tang's words and obviously didn't care about Co. Wu drawing the lottery. He nodded and agreed, Okay, 3 times. I'll give him 2 more chances. Sir, you can go draw the lottery now. Shaoli, go ahead. The bald Co. Wu waved his hand without a care. Mrs. Tang had never seen Lai Changyi before. She didn't know what Lai Changyi did, but seeing that he was respectful to her, she nodded in confusion. Hello, you are... Auntie, I'm Mr. Lin's friend. He asked me to help you research a special price house. Lai Changyi said. Tang Yun glanced at Fatty Lai. Who is he putting on a show for? You're lying to my mom, right? Tang Yun wasn't stupid. She knew that Lin Yi cared about her face and wouldn't let Fatty Lai give her a house directly. Instead, he would sell the house at a low price to help her family. Although Tang Yun was touched, she also felt uncomfortable. She felt that Lin Yi was colluding with Fatty Lai to lie to her. However, Tang Yun thought of her mother's personality and immediately understood Lin Yi's good intentions. If Fatty Lai acted like he was Lin Yi's follower, then her mother wouldn't spend a single cent at all. She might even ask Fatty Lai for a house. If her mother asked for a house, what would she do? What would she do? Thinking of this, Tang Yun couldn't help but feel grateful for Lin Yi's actions. So that's how it is. I finally got my eyes on a house and I was wondering if I could get a discount. In the end, that person bought it for 250,000 yuan. I'm so pissed. Mrs. Tang saw that Lin Yi found a friend to help her and immediately complained, Do you have any houses similar to this one? It's best if you can give me a discount. Do you? Fatty Lai looked at Manager Wang and asked. Yes, yes. Manager Wang was shocked. What kind of relationship did this auntie have? How could she order Xiao Lai to speak? He quickly opened the sales booklet and looked for it. Then he said, there's another building beside the one that auntie has her eyes on. It's just that it's 30 meters bigger than this one. The price is 2 million. What? Even if it's 30 meters bigger than this one, it's still 2 million. Baldy Boss Wu also heard Manager Wang's call. He instantly widened his eyes and asked subconsciously. He spent the same amount of money but bought a small house. What kind of logic was this? Yes, the floor plan is the same as yours, but it's the building next to yours. The sales lady nodded and smiled at the bald Xiao Wu. Why didn't you say so earlier? Didn't you say that this was the only one left? At this moment, Xiao Wu couldn't care less about being pretentious anymore. He had spent an extra 250,000 yuan for no reason. The other side was 30 meters bigger than his and had the same floor plan, but it was only 2 million yuan. Wasn't he a big shot? Chapter 736. Chapter 0736, Smart Tang Yun Ah? Xiao Wu was dumbfounded. That's right, he didn't ask and competed with Tang Yun's family. How would he know that there was a bigger house in the building next door? Then can I change it? I'm sorry, your information is already online, you can't change it. The sales lady shook her head regretfully. Forget it, I don't need this little money. I'll buy something I like. Xiao Wu gritted his teeth and comforted himself. That's right, we'll buy a bigger house with the same amount of money. Mrs. Tang was delighted. She turned to Fatty Lai and asked, then can we get a discount on this house? Yes, why not? Fatty Lai thought about it and said, how about this? The house just now was sold for 250,000 yuan because of the competition with auntie. So, I'll give you a discount of 250,000 yuan for this house. It'll still be 950,000 yuan, and the other discounts won't change. How about it? Manager Wang, is that okay? Since Xiao Lai said so, how could Manager Wang say no? This property belonged to Xiao Lai, he was just an employee, so he quickly said, okay, if Xiao Lai says it's okay, then it's okay. But Manager Wang was shocked. What was the relationship between these people and Lai Chang'e? He had actually slashed 250,000 yuan in one go, and he would still be able to enjoy other housing discounts after that. This level of strength was simply unprecedented. Baldy Xiao Wu was already depressed. He had wasted 250,000 yuan to buy a small house. This money was enough to buy a big house. But in order to show that he was rich, he endured it. But this Xiao Lai used his own money to give Mrs. Tang a discount. Wasn't he cheating them? He almost rolled his eyes and fainted. This act was such a failure. He felt like an idiot. Not only did he not cheat Tang Yun's family, but he cheated 250,000 yuan of his own money. Not only did they get a house that they liked, but it was also cheaper by 250,000 yuan. Just as he was feeling depressed, Shaoli came back with an electric rice cooker, a microwave oven and an electric kettle. She said happily, honey, I've won so many prizes. I've saved money on home appliances. What's the use of these things? Greedy. The bald Xiao Wu had lost 250,000 yuan for nothing and he was unhappy. Seeing that Shaoli was still so happy after drawing a few lousy prizes, he immediately became angry. It's fine if it's the grand prize and first prize, but why are you showing off these lousy prizes? Hurry up and leave. Are you going to embarrass yourself here? Baldy Xiao Wu really couldn't stay any longer. It was too stifling. He felt that he had suffered a huge loss today. He had never suffered such a loss before. Shaoli was suddenly at a loss of what to do after being scolded by Baldy Wu. She was pulled out of the sales office by Baldy Wu. Mrs. Tang pursed her lips and sneered at the two of them. What the hell? Are you dumbfounded? Mrs. Tang had been depressed about not being able to buy a house. Now that she had finally found one, it was snatched away. How could she feel good about that? But now she was so happy that she was about to jump high. Lin Yi's face was still big. He casually gave her a discount of 250,000 yuan. With such a discount, she would smile even in her dreams when she went home. Accompanied by Fatty Lai and Manager Wang, Mrs. Tang went to look at the house again. This time she was even happier than before. This house was obviously much bigger. The previous house had 3 bedrooms and 1 living room. This one had 4 bedrooms and 1 living room. The layout was similar, but there was an extra storage room. The price was the same as the previous one. It was so worth it. Okay, I'll take this one. Mrs. Tang didn't hesitate this time. Xiao Lai, it's great that my Xiao Yi has a friend like you. You're flattering me. Fatty Lai wiped his sweat. I'm lucky to have a good boss. Otherwise, I wouldn't be so powerful right now. Even Lu Tianyi has to be respectful when he sees me now. In the future, House Lai will also be a noble house and the biggest one at that. They won't even bother to be on the same level as the 4 small noble houses of the 5 worlds. Fatty Lai was very far-sighted. He felt that Lin Yi would one day soar into the sky. As long as he followed in Lin Yi's footsteps, glory and wealth would be at his fingertips. Under Manager Wang's personal supervision, the contract was quickly signed. Mrs. Tang paid the money and got a chance to draw a prize. Auntie, I'll take you to the draw. Who is Manager Wang? He was a shrewd person in society. If he wasn't, he wouldn't have been able to become the manager of the sales office. He could tell that Mr. Lai wasn't Mr. Lin's friend. It was obvious that he was trying to curry favor with Mr. Lin. A discount of 250,000? How was that a discount? It was simply a huge loss. But Manager Wang didn't show it on his face. He was prepared to give Mrs. Tang some more benefits. Mrs. Tang knew that her luck wasn't good. She didn't think that she would win anything in this kind of lucky draw. But the introduction was very good. She had a 100% chance of winning. That Shaoli got 3 appliances. How could she lose? If she could get a microwave or a water heater, she would save a lot of money. Mrs. Tang couldn't help but ask, Manager Wang, that person got 3 times. Can I get 3 times too? If it was someone else, Manager Wang would look down on them. He already gave you a discount of 250,000. Why do you care about these small prizes? But Manager Wang was looking for a chance to please Mrs. Tang for Fatty Lai. How could he not agree? He smiled, Auntie, you can go and get 3 times too. Good, good. Mrs. Tang beamed with joy. Tang Yun looked at her mother helplessly. When her mother walked away, she turned to Lin Yi and whispered, Thank you, what are you thanking me for? Lin Yi smiled. You know the answer. Tang Yun humphed and ignored Lin Yi. Lin Yi was embarrassed that Tang Yun saw through him. It seemed that Tang Yun wasn't stupid. The main problem was that Tang Yun knew that Fatty Lai was his follower. It was normal for Tang Yun to be suspicious. Fatty Lai didn't feel embarrassed when Tang Yun saw through him. He walked over with a smile. Boss, sister-in-law, are you satisfied with the house? It's fine as long as you don't lose anything, Lin Yi hinted. I didn't lose anything. I sold it at the cost. I'll buy it for sister-in-law's family when I'm building a house, Fatty Lai smiled. Chapter 737. Hit the jackpot. She knew that she owed Lin Yi too much and she didn't know how to repay him. That was why she had such thoughts. After all, she was Lin Yi's girlfriend, not his wife. Okay, thank you. Tang Yun thanked Fatty Lai. What are you thanking me for? It's nothing. Besides, if it weren't for you guys, I wouldn't have earned that extra 250,000 yuan. Fatty Lai smiled and shook his head. Auntie's luck is pretty good. Maybe you'll get a big prize. As they were talking, Mrs. Tang came to the lottery table and drew a card. She looked at it and saw that it was an electric water heater. Mrs. Tang was overjoyed. An electric water heater cost 1 to 2,000 yuan and she got it for free. Not bad. Congratulations, Mrs. Wang, for winning an electric water heater. The MC threw the card back into the lucky draw box, then handed Mrs. Tang a ticket and congratulated her loudly. The lottery cards were used repeatedly, not limited. In other words, everyone had a chance to win the first prize or first prize. However, there was more than one electric water heater card and there was only one special and first prize card. But even so, it also aroused the enthusiasm of those buyers. Everyone had a chance and it was not like there would be no chance after being selected. So many customers who had bought a house were there, waiting for the arrival of the god of luck. Mrs. Tang pulled out another card. On it was an induction cooker. Although it wasn't worth much, only about 1 or 200 yuan, Mrs. Tang wasn't discouraged. Instead, she was happy. Who would complain about having too much free stuff? Mrs. Tang continued to draw and no one suspected anything. After all, there were people who bought multiple houses, garages and parking lots. They all had a chance to draw. The MC congratulated Mrs. Tang and gave her another voucher. Mother Tang was a little nervous when it came to her last lucky draw. She didn't dare to take it out. Deep down she wanted to win the grand prize or first prize. Even though the chances were slim, who wouldn't want to win the grand prize? Plus, if she won the special prize, she'd be able to save on the renovation and extra money. It was a lot of money, at least 100,000 yuan. However, there were still people waiting to draw the lottery. He couldn't possibly not draw it, right? Mrs. Tang gritted her teeth and pulled out a voucher. She didn't dare to look at it. She glanced at it from the corner of her eyes. It was an electric kettle. Mrs. Tang was greatly disappointed and her expression changed. What a close shave, what a close shave. However, before Mrs. Tang could hand over the ticket to the MC, Manager Wang snatched it from her. He looked at it and exclaimed, "Oh my God, the special prize." The first grand prize of the day had been decided. Congratulations, Ms. Wang. After that, Manager Wang threw the lottery ticket back into the lottery box. Then he shook the box deliberately as if he was afraid that someone would find it. Mrs. Tang's mind went blank. Grand prize? How was that possible? He clearly saw the words, electric kettle, written on it. It had nothing to do with the grand prize. How did it become the grand prize? I didn't see it clearly. Did Manager Wang also not see it clearly? He didn't even wait for me to confirm it and threw the ticket back into the lottery box. What was going on? Mrs. Tang stood on the stage with a frozen expression. It was as if she had won the grand prize. The customers didn't suspect anything. They all thought that Mrs. Tang's luck was too good. Did she win the grand prize just like that? The MC was also slightly stunned, but since it was announced by Manager Wang himself, he naturally wouldn't say much. He also congratulated him happily. Congratulations, you have given us a good omen. You won the first special prize. The first and second prizes were announced, but the grand prize hasn't been announced yet. I didn't expect that the winner would be you. Mrs. Tang didn't know what to do. However, she didn't want to say it out loud. He saved a lot of money just like that. Although Mrs. Tang was confused, she nodded cooperatively. I didn't expect that I would win the grand prize. I'm so lucky. Ah, Mrs. Wang, this is your ticket. Keep it well. You can go and handle the renovation procedures later. Let our company know what you think and we can start the construction. The MC said with a smile. Hey. Mrs. Tang happily took the ticket. On the other hand, Manager Wang accompanied Mrs. Tang to receive the award. No one suspected anything. After all, the previous winners of the first and second prizes had also been personally attended by Manager Wang. Of course, the first and second prizes were real, but the grand prize was fake. However, there was no limit to the number of grand prizes. No one would suspect that the sales office would fake it. So what if it was fake? They still had a chance to win the grand prize. Tang Yun, who was below the stage, was also shocked. Her mother won the grand prize? Was it real? Tang Yun looked at her mother's expression and began to doubt it. Other people might not understand her mother, but she knew her mother. Was this her mother's expression after winning the prize? It was an expression of disappointment that she didn't win. Of course, some people would be happy when they won the prize, but Tang Yun knew that her mother wouldn't be like that. She remembered her mother's happy expression when she won the 3 million yesterday. Tang Yun was sure that her mother didn't win the prize. Then the grand prize. Tang Yun couldn't help but look at Fatty Lai. Fatty Lai seemed to know nothing and was talking to Lin Yi about the medical company. Tang Yun sighed. It was hard on Lin Yi. He thought of so many ways to help her family, just so that she wouldn't be in a difficult position. She was useless. She was like Meng Yao and the others. Lin Yi wouldn't need to do so much. From the looks of it, Lin Yi and Miss were quite compatible. Her appearance might have been a mistake, but the mistake had already happened. Tang Yun felt that she couldn't get out of it. She didn't want to leave Lin Yi, but what should she do? As Tang Yun was thinking, her mother came back. This time she was very happy. Yin, your mother won the prize too. I won the grand prize. Fatty Lai nodded approvingly at Manager Wang. It seemed like Manager Wang had a good eye. Manager Wang saw the praise in Fatty Lai's eyes and smiled. It seemed like he didn't do anything wrong. Chapter 738. A slip of the tongue. Manager Wang heard that Mrs. Tang's request was simple and easy to fulfill. He'd just have to ask the design company to design the best modern style. Annie, how is it? Are you satisfied with the house? Fatty Lai asked when he saw Mrs. Tang. Satisfied, satisfied. Lai, you're a good friend of Lin Yi's. Mrs. Tang praised. Haha, auntie, I'm flattered. Fatty Lai laughed. It's almost lunchtime, I'll treat everyone to lunch? Manager Wang was even more shocked. Boss Lai had lowered the price by so much and helped so much. It was fine if Lin Yi didn't treat him, but he wanted to do it himself? It seemed like these people weren't simple at all. How can I do that? I should be the one treating you. Mrs. Tang was stingy, but she knew that Fatty Lai had helped her a lot today. I have something to ask you as well, Mrs. Tang quickly said. Sure, let's find a restaurant nearby. Fatty Lai nodded. The four of them walked out of the sales office together. Mother Tang carefully put away the contract. This was close to $1 million. It was the first time in her life that she had spent so much money. Her heart was filled with excitement, but at the same time she felt a little unreal. Everything felt surreal. You want to ride in my car? Fatty Lai drove an Audi Q7 today. No need, I drove here too. Lin Yi pointed at his broken van. Mrs. Tang actually wanted to ride in Fatty Lai's luxurious car, but she gave up after hearing what Lin Yi said. She was still a little envious though. Fatty Lai didn't mind and got into Lin Yi's broken van, sitting in the back with Mrs. Tang, leaving the front passenger seat for Tang Yun. Lin Yi drove away and asked, "Where are we going to eat?" "Here." Fatty Lai found a restaurant that looked decent. It wasn't practical to go too far at this time. Lin Yi glanced at the entrance of the restaurant and saw that the BMW that he had stepped on before was also parked there. However, Lin Yi didn't care. It couldn't be that Lin Yi wouldn't come to eat just because he was there, right? Moreover, Lin Yi was not afraid of him at all. Fatty Lai and Lin Yi walked into the restaurant together. Fatty Lai didn't pay attention to the bald Co Wu and his sweetheart Xiaoli. After all, they were just two small fry. Fatty Lai didn't pay attention to them at all. Mrs. Tang, on the other hand, was too engrossed in her happiness to notice the situation. Tang Yin, on the other hand, noticed Baldy Wu and his sweetheart sitting on the left side of the dining hall. "Lin Yi, that boss Wu was also eating here? It's not a good idea for us to come here, is it?" Tang Yin was a bit hesitated after all. They were taking advantage of Lin Yi's 25. It wasn't easy for them to run into each other. "Oh, then I should tell him to get lost, lest he affects my girlfriend's mood." Lin Yi smiled. "Stop it, why are you so bossy?" Tang Yin was very shy. Then let's not care about him." Lin Yi shook his head. Fatty Lai asked the waiter for a private room. In fact, there was no need for 4 people to have a private room, but Fatty Lai felt that it was better to treat people formally. After entering the private room and sitting down, since Fatty Lai was treating, he first ordered a few signature dishes before passing the menu to Mrs. Tang and Tang Yin, Auntie's sister-in-law. Miss Tang, what would you like to eat?" Fatty Lai's words slipped, but fortunately he reacted quickly. Seeing that Mrs. Tang didn't seem to notice, he let out a sigh of relief. "Are these dishes enough? There are only 4 of us, we can't eat so much, right?" Mrs. Tang looked at the dishes that Fatty Lai ordered. They were all the signature dishes of this restaurant. It was enough. "Yes, these dishes are enough for 4 people, the waiter nodded. Although the restaurant naturally wanted to sell more dishes, they couldn't let people order so they couldn't finish it, right? When it was Tang Yin's turn, she only ordered a few bottles of drinks and didn't add any dishes. Fatty Lai had no choice but to order a dessert before waving the waiter away. And the bald Co Wu, who was sitting not far away, saw Lin Yi's group and immediately frowned. "It's really a small world for enemies. There were a lot of people at the sales office and I couldn't do anything to you, but now you guys come to me?" "Yeah, Co Wu, these people are so bad they made us spend an extra 250,000 yuan. Xiaoli was a little distressed. How good would it be if she gave the money to someone else? She didn't think much about it when she bought the house. After all, it was Boss Wu's money at that time. But now that the house was hers, Xiaoli also felt that the extra money she spent was her own. "If I don't find someone to teach them a lesson, I won't be able to calm down." Co Wu was actually thinking that he would find someone to beat up Lin Yi and force him to leave Tang Yin. At that time he would appear forcefully and gain the favor of Tang Yin's family. Then he wouldn't be far from getting the beauty. "Yeah, Co Wu, aren't you under Tsihua Bro's protection? Why don't you find Tsihua Bro?" Xiaoli suggested. "That's what I'm planning to do." Co Wu nodded. His taxi company was under the name of Tsihua's company, and he paid Sihua a huge sum of money every month. How else would he be able to dominate the taxi industry in Songshan and become the leader of the taxi industry? Because he had Sihua backing him, the other taxi companies didn't dare to say anything. Who dared to provoke Sihua? Xiao Wu dialed Sihua's number. Sihua had just finished the silver needle removal surgery with his brother. This surgery left Li Delay crippled. After the silver needles were removed, there were holes all over his body. He looked like a sieve and every wound was as big as a rice bowl. It was shocking. But in order to survive he had to do this. Otherwise, if Lin Yi's pure energy exploded out he wouldn't be able to live. Bro, how am I going to live in the future? There's even a hole in my dick. I'm so pitiful. Li Delay was in so much pain that he wanted to die after the anesthesia wore off. Alright, stop howling. It's your fault for messing with Lin Yi. Sihua glared at Li Delay. Even Master Bing doesn't know how to deal with Lin Yi. What can you do? But I don't want to give up. I want revenge. I want to tear Lin Yi into pieces. Li Delay clenched his teeth in pain. Just wait for Master Bing to avenge you. Don't even think about it. How could Sihua not hate Lin Yi? He hated Lin Yi to the bone, but what could he do even if he hated him to the bone? He couldn't do anything to Lin Yi and was afraid of him. Chapter 739. Give me back my silver needle. Li Delay nodded. He could only wait for Master Bing to take revenge for him. Lin Yi was too strong, even his brother wasn't his match. Sihua comforted Li Delay and received a call from Baldy Wu when he left the ward. Hello? Old Wu, what's up? Sihua asked. Sihua bro, I was bullied. There was a dent in my car and when I mentioned your name the guy didn't care at all. He asked me what Sihua bro was. Po Wu started making up stories in order to get Sihua to stand up for him. In this Songshan city, there's someone who doesn't care about my name? Sihua was already filled with rage and Baldy Wu's words only served to enrage him further. Who are they? I don't know, I brought Xiaoli to buy a house today and met them at the sales office. They seem to have some relationship with the manager there so I gave them a discount. Xiao Wu said. Buy a house. Alright, I'll bring my men over now. Sihua nodded. Who else could they be if they went to buy a house himself? Now that he was pissed, it was good to find someone to vent his anger on. Po Wu was overjoyed. He felt that the money he gave to Sihua all these years wasn't in vain. Sihua really helped him when he was in trouble. Sihua actually valued Baldy Wu quite a lot. Although Baldy Wu always used Sihua's name to do things outside, Baldy Wu really did bring back a lot of money every year. 5 million a year as tribute was considered a huge amount for Sihua's businesses. As a result, Sihua couldn't just leave Baldy Wu in the lurch. He brought his men over personally to show that he was taking care of Baldy Wu, so that he would be able to give him more money when the tribute came at the end of the year. It was troubled times now and Sihua was extremely poor. Building Qibing's skyscraper was already enough for him, and now he had to build another one. He used up all his savings so of course he wanted to get more money. It wasn't long before Sihua brought his men over. Po Wu was overjoyed. Sihua bro, here. Sihua nodded as he walked over with his men. I say old Wu, you're someone with a lot of reputation. Why are you eating in the main hall? It's just 2 people. It's just a casual meal. There's no need to put on a show. Baldy Xiao Wu said quickly. Alright, where are the people you mentioned? Take me there. I still have other things to deal with. Sihua felt that it would be beneath his status to deal with this kind of thing personally, but he didn't have anyone else he could use. Zhang Long and Li Yao were both killed by Lin Yi, and Zhong Fabai was in the hospital right now. He really didn't have anyone else he could use so he had no choice but to deal with it himself. But this made Xiao Wu very touched. Sihua bro, it's in that room over there. I'm honored that you came in person. Don't worry, I'll increase the management fee by 10% this year. Well said, well said. Sihua thought to himself. It seems like you're quite smart. It's not a waste for me to come in person. Sihua brought Su Jiaonong and a few of his underlings to the front of the room. The waiters of the restaurant also saw this scene, but at this moment they didn't dare to come forward. After all, Sihua's group didn't look like they came with good intentions, especially those underlings. They were all burly men with tattoos all over their bodies. Kick the door. Sihua said faintly. Okay. Po Wu was emboldened this time. With Sihua by his side, what was there for him to be afraid of? So with a bang, he kicked the door of the room. This kick he used all his strength. But who knew that the door of this restaurant wasn't sturdy at all, and it didn't even take a kick. It wasn't even locked. The kick was too strong and he fell directly into the room. With a plop sound he laid on the ground, prostrating himself. Sihua was so angry that his teeth itched. He really couldn't be helped. They were here to cause trouble and you actually kowtowed the moment you entered the room. What are you doing? Sihua had no choice but to lift his leg and enter the room. He couldn't show any weakness. Xiao Wu's sudden appearance made Lin Yi and the others stunned. Was there something wrong with this person? As for Sihua, when he entered the room he wanted to act cool and shout, but when he saw Lin Yi in the room he suddenly froze. Xiao Wu naturally didn't see Sihua's expression clearly. He was still like a dog eating mud. With great difficulty he climbed up from the ground and pointed at Lin Yi and shouted, "Sihua bro, it's this kid. He's the one who kicked my car. He didn't even put you in his eyes." Sihua's back was covered in cold sweat. Why was he so unlucky? He was helping his underlings and he still had to meet Lin Yi. He didn't put me in his eyes, did he? Not only did he not put me in his eyes, he also didn't put Master Bing in his eyes. But what could he do to him? Sihua was a little embarrassed. He didn't know what to say. He wanted to say that they came to the wrong room and leave with his underlings, but this Xiao Wu revealed the truth. He had no way to smooth things over. Lin Yi. Sihua was a little embarrassed. "Sihua bro, are you here to give me the silver needles?" Lin Yi looked at Sihua and said faintly, "Your brother's silver needles have been removed, right? Give them back to me quickly, they're quite expensive." Sihua's expression instantly became very interesting. The silver needles still had to be returned? Wasn't this too much? How much was a box of silver needles worth? But he really didn't dare to explode. Lin Yi's strength was there for all to see, and Lin Yi was a violent maniac who wasn't afraid of anything. He even dared to hit Master Bing, let alone Sihua. Sihua didn't want to be crippled by Lin Yi. He could only force a smile and said, "It's just a box of silver needles, why do you care? Oh, you like silver needles? Do you want me to give you a few more?" Lin Yi said as he took out the box of silver needles from his pocket. Sihua looked at the box of silver needles and his face turned ashen. What the fuck, what was the meaning of this? Did Lin Yi want to put a few more silver needles on his body? Sihua couldn't take that. He said hurriedly, I don't like it, I'll go get the needles now and send them to you immediately." Sihua didn't dare to say anything else and he turned around and left the room. Jiaonong and the others who came with Sihua saw that he was leaving and quickly left as well. Chapter 740. Sent back. Xiao Wu was someone who had seen the world. He could tell that the situation wasn't looking good. Ever since Sihua saw the person in the room, he didn't plan to help him at all. And from the looks of it, Sihua was afraid of the person in the room. That was why he left with his tail between his legs. "I'm sorry, I went to the wrong room. This meal is on me, it's my treat." Xiao Wu wasn't an idiot. He knew that if he didn't understand the situation he would only be waiting for death. Even Sihua couldn't afford to offend this person. How could he, Xiao Wu, afford to offend this person? "Alright, hurry up and leave. Don't disturb our meal." Mrs. Tang waved her hand and signaled that Baldy Wu could leave. She felt great in her heart. "You don't like it? You found someone? So what? My son-in-law would scare them away. So what if it was Sihua?" Although he was a famous person in Songshan and was a legend in Mrs. Tang's eyes, it seemed that he was just a coward. Mrs. Tang thought that she would become a famous person in Songshan in the future. Even Sihua wouldn't be her opponent. Xiao Wu quickly turned around and left. After leaving the room he returned to his seat with a face full of dirt. "Xiao Wu, what happened just now? Why did Sihua bro leave so quickly?" Shaoli didn't follow him and didn't understand the situation. "Don't mention it. We're unlucky this time. We met a big shot. Even Sihua bro doesn't dare to offend him. Just admit it." Xiao Wu knew that he couldn't handle it anymore. He didn't force himself. "Waiter." The waiter quickly came over. They also saw the big commotion caused by the bald President Wu previously. However, since the parties involved didn't say anything, they wouldn't meddle too much. "Sir, how may I help you?" the waiter quickly asked. "The bill for that room is on me." Xiao Wu pointed at Lin Yi's room and said to the waiter. The waiter was startled. It was obvious that Xiao Wu went to that room to cause trouble. Why was he paying the bill now? However, the specifics had nothing to do with him, so after being stunned for a moment he quickly nodded and said, "Yes, sir." After the waiter left, Xiao Wu heaved a sigh of relief. Fuck, if I knew that the person in that private room was so awesome, I wouldn't have provoked him. Isn't this just looking for trouble? What right did they have to provoke someone that even Xihua couldn't afford to offend? But at this moment he was a little afraid. Boss Wu, will they take revenge on us? I don't think so. We're just small fries. If he's looking for someone, he'd be looking for Xihua. He doesn't even know who we are. Baldy Wu was rather optimistic. I think we should hurry up and leave. Don't stay here. What if they come out later and see us still here? What if they come to trouble us? Shaoli was still a little worried. Who's going to pay for them if we leave? Baldy Xiao Wu said, I was very sincere just now. They didn't make things difficult for me. Clearly they don't care about me at all. So don't be afraid. Let's continue eating. Shaoli couldn't eat anymore. She took a few sips of her drink and sat at her seat, waiting for Lin Yi and the others to finish eating. Xiao Wu did the same, sitting on pins and needles, waiting for Lin Yi and the others to finish eating. Hihua got in the car and went straight to the hospital. Naturally, Su Jiaonong knew who Lin Yi was. He also knew that it was because of him that Xihua and Master Bing were so angry. Xihua bro, are we really going to get the needles for him? Wouldn't that make us look weak? Su Jiaonong didn't think that Xihua would really go for the needles. What if we don't? Before we think of a way to deal with this kid, we can only use a gentle and pacifying strategy. Don't provoke him. Xihua sighed. He felt very wronged. Ever since he relied on House Xiao and made his fortune in Songshan, he had never felt so wronged before. But he didn't have a choice now. The masters around him were either killed or injured by Lin Yi. His Yaowang wasn't good enough and his poison was neutralized. How was he supposed to fight Lin Yi? Su Jiaonong thought about it and agreed. What could he do if he wasn't weak? If he couldn't win, he could only be bullied. Xihua asked Su Jiaonong to get the needles from the hospital and returned to the restaurant. Xiao Wu was waiting for Lin Yi to finish his dinner so he could pay the bill. But before Lin Yi finished his dinner, Xihua came again. Xiao Wu was overjoyed when he saw Xihua. Xihua wouldn't be here for revenge, would he? But upon closer inspection, it didn't seem to be the case at all. This time only Xihua and Su Jiaonong entered the restaurant. The lackeys from before were all gone. Xiao Wu quickly stood up to greet Xihua, but Xihua waved at him impatiently. Xihua came to Lin Yi's room and knocked on the door carefully. After getting permission, he entered. Lin Yi, I've brought the needles. Xihua gritted his teeth as he placed the needles on the table. Oh, thank you. You can leave now. Lin Yi nodded. Oh right, thank you for the 3 million yesterday. My girlfriend's family bought a big house. You're welcome. Xihua felt his face burning. He was considered a big shot, but he was treated like a clown. Xihua didn't even know how he walked out of the restaurant. It was too embarrassing. It was too embarrassing. If he knew this would happen, he wouldn't have come. Not only did he not do anything to Lin Yi, but he was also humiliated by Lin Yi. If he didn't take revenge, he wouldn't be able to eat or sleep in peace. Xihua decided to go back and discuss with Master Bing how to take revenge on Lin Yi. After returning to the floating cloud bar, Xihua didn't hide anything. He told Master Bing everything that happened today. It wasn't a matter of shame anymore. He had lost all his face in this period of time. This Lin Yi is really arrogant. Qibing frowned after hearing Xihua's words. I came to Songshan to start a business. With Lin Yi around, everything is going to be difficult. Until now, I haven't earned a single cent, but I've lost quite a lot. Alright, how's the Qibing skyscraper? Is it completed? It's completed. It's in the finishing stage. I found the most professional construction team in the country. The speed is the fastest. Xihua said. Chapter 741. Were you kissing? Isn't it because of Lin Yi's matter that we've stopped? Why don't we continue tomorrow? Xihua asked. Yes, continue working. Flatten that piece of land. Qibing nodded. Master Bing, according to our plans, there's an orphanage right next to the slums. Do you think we should get the land for the orphanage? The slums weren't square but an L shape. One of the pieces of land was the orphanage. At first, Sihua didn't have any intentions towards the orphanage, but now that he'd lost 100 million on the HQ building and 3 million to Lin Yi, he'd lost a lot of money. It was going to be hard to make up for the losses with just the slums. Orphanage. Master Bing thought about it. What's the background? Nothing much, it's just a private charity orphanage. The land was donated for free. Sihua knew more about this. Alright, go talk to someone and get it. We need to build a high-end modern community. We need to recoup our losses before, or I won't be able to explain it to my dad. Qibing didn't think much of it when he heard that it was a private orphanage. What background could it possibly have? Master Bing, are we still going to hold the completion ceremony for the group's skyscraper this time? Sihua asked as he remembered the completion ceremony from the last time. What the hell? Didn't we embarrass ourselves enough last time? Master Bing glared at Sihua. Speaking of this, Master Bing was furious. You want me to attend the completion ceremony in a wheelchair? This Lin Yi is like a ticking time bomb lying in ambush on the road. Who knows when he'll explode? If we don't get rid of him, we won't be able to live in peace. But this guy doesn't seem to be injured at all. Uncle Zhu and Yawang are no match for him. What can we do? Sihua was out of ideas. Huh? Ticking time bomb? Sihua's eyes lit up after hearing Master Bing's words. What's wrong with a ticking time bomb? Do you have any good ideas? Master Bing saw Sihua's expression and asked quickly. There's an old saying that no matter how good your martial arts are, you're still afraid of guns and cannons. Why do we have to fight him head-on? Why don't we use a little strategy? Sihua suggested. You mean we should use firearms against him? Master Bing paused. That time bomb thing you mentioned reminded me of something. We can install a time bomb in his car, won't he die the moment he starts driving? Sihua finally thought of a way to deal with Lin Yi. Install a time bomb in his car? That's a good idea, but isn't this opportunity hard to come by? Master Bing found Sihua's suggestion to be quite a good one. At the very least he wouldn't have to fight Lin Yi head-on. Who knew if Lin Yi had recovered his strength? How about this? Who cares if he has recovered his strength or not? I'll just blow him up with a bomb. Let's see if he can still be so arrogant then. Lu Xinwen wasn't that gullible. We were whispering. Tang Yun glared at Lu Xinwen. You're making a fuss. Why aren't you in the classroom? What are you doing here? Chapter 742. Group photo. Oh, we went to buy a house this morning, Tang Yun said. Her heart was filled with sweetness when she talked about buying a house. In the past she didn't even know if she could survive if something like this happened to her family, not to mention buying a house. Now her family was probably the one with the best situation in the slums. While everyone was waiting for their houses to be demolished, her family was already living in a building. Lu Xinwen was envious. Yun, you're so lucky. We're waiting for our houses to be demolished and we don't know when we'll get the compensation. The developer doesn't know how much and how much the compensation will be. It's making everyone anxious all day long. Isn't it because of my father's broken leg? Tang Yun sighed. She didn't know if it was because of her father's broken leg or because she met Lin Yi. Tang Yun saw the drastic changes in her family and remembered it in her heart. It was all Lin Yi's credit, so Tang Yun would sometimes treat Lin Yi with gratitude. If someone pays me 3 million, I'd rather have both my legs broken. Xinwen was a little envious of Tang Yun. Although her words were a little harsh, it was the truth. The residents of Shantytown were basically the toiling masses at the bottom of society. Who would live here if they were rich? They were either laid-off workers or jobless groups. Everyone relied on small businesses and hard labor to maintain their family's food and clothing. Just like Lu Xinwen's parents, they were also working for others. Their monthly income was just enough to maintain their family's livelihood. The entire family had almost no savings at all. Not to mention buying a house, even renting a house after losing it would be difficult to make ends meet. I hope that the developer has some conscience and can compensate us a sum of money. Then we can ask Lin Yi to help us buy a special price house in a bad location. Tang Yun looked at Lin Yi. She didn't care about other people, but Lu Xinwen and Fen were her childhood friends. She couldn't just watch them go down the drain and not do anything about it. But Tang Yun didn't want to make things difficult for Lin Yi. She only asked Lin Yi to help them buy a special price house with a slightly worse location. It would be sold at a special price. Lin Yi should be able to get it with his connections, right? Of course, no problem. Lin Yi and Lu Xinwen were familiar with each other. A house with a slightly worse location should be much cheaper. Thank you so much. Lu Xinwen heard Lin Yi's words and felt touched. She felt that Lin Yi was a righteous person. Tang Yun's heart was not in vain. If it was Kong Mingming, he wouldn't have done this. As for the layout and location, Lu Xinwen didn't really care. No matter how bad it was still a building. It was better than the slums, right? The three returned to school together. Lin Yi and Tang Yun parted at the door of class 9. Lin Yi entered his own class. There weren't many people in the classroom. Clearly, there weren't many people coming to school today. It was lunch break, so there were even fewer people. The Miss and Yushu were both there. They were reading in their seats. Seeing Lin Yi enter, the Miss raised her head and looked at Lin Yi before returning her gaze back to her book. Yushu wanted to call Lin Yi, but she was afraid that Meng Yao wouldn't want it. She opened her mouth but closed it again and continued reading. Lin Yi shook his head and went back to his seat. Kong Xiaobo wasn't here. The kid probably went to accompany Fin today. Lin Yi sat in his seat and had nothing to do. Yao Yao, Shield Bro is back. Should we ask him to take a photo with us? Yushu took out the digital camera from her bag. The 12th year of high school was about to end. Since there weren't any classes today, Meng Yao and Yushu brought their camera and took some photos in the school. They wanted to record the last part of their high school life. Why? Meng Yao was a little tempted, but she asked back. Shield Bro is leaving after graduation. Yushu's voice was a little disappointed. Yao Yao, you're right. Shield Bro can't stay with us forever. We'll part ways one day. Yushu's words made Meng Yao's heart tighten. Lin Yi was leaving? Yeah, he had to leave eventually. What reason did he have to stay after high school was over? In his father's company, the people who were hostile to him were all chased away by Lin Yi. His troublesome pursuers, Zhong Pingliang and Zhang Wen, were all hospitalized with their kidneys cut out. Lin Yi's mission was considered a success. Perhaps after graduating from high school, Lin Yi wouldn't stay in the villa anymore when she and Shu went to college. What would he do? Rent a house with Tang Yun? The Miss felt complicated at the thought of this possibility. He was supposed to live with Shu and her, but now he was living with Tang Yun. Should she give up her happiness? But what could she do if she didn't? Lin Yi wasn't anyone to her. What right did he have to stay by her side? Just because of the 30,000 yuan? Mei Yao found it funny. Lin Yi didn't even care about 3 million. What was 30,000 to him? Then let's keep it as a souvenir. Meng Yao sighed. Text him. Yushu took out her phone and quickly sent a message to Lin Yi. Lin Yi was bored when his phone vibrated. It was a message from Yushu. Go to the field and take a photo for me and Yao Yao? Lin Yi paused. The Miss had never exposed their relationship in school before, so what was up with her today? Was it Shu's idea? Lin Yi didn't reply. He stood up and walked out of the classroom. He believed that Yushu would understand what he meant. As expected, not long after Lin Yi walked out, the Miss and Yushu followed him out. In the hallway, Yushu called out to Lin Yi. Shield Bro. Meng Yao hesitated. She wanted to say something, but after thinking about it, a lot of people knew about her relationship with Lin Yi. What was there to care about? Besides, she had already announced to Tang Yun that she was going to fight for Lin Yi. Now that she was hiding it, it was as if she was afraid of her. With that thought, the Miss changed her attitude towards Lin Yi. She raised her head and pulled Yushu. Shu, let's take a photo in the hallway? We can get our class sign here. Chapter 743. You'll take pictures for us. Lin Yi took the camera and nodded. The classrooms of 12th Class 5 and 12th Class 9 weren't too far away from each other. Yushu's shield brogue was a little out of place and Tang Yun was sitting by the window in the hallway. The windows were always open in the summer, so she heard it as well. She was very sensitive to Yushu's unique way of addressing Lin Yi. She raised her head and saw Lin Yi taking pictures of Meng Yao and Yushu. Tang Yun frowned. She couldn't figure out whether or not Meng Yao and Yushu liked Lin Yi or not. Or did one of them like Lin Yi or not? Or maybe they didn't like him. Xinwen heard Yushu's voice as well. She popped her head out of the classroom and saw Lin Yi taking pictures of Meng Yao and Yushu. She quickly texted Tang Yun. Tang Yun was a little annoyed when she received Xinwen's message. She replied with "I know" and put her phone back into her pocket. There were only a few more months until the college entrance exams. He had to study hard. It was good to be with Lin Yi, but she couldn't let it affect her studies. If she couldn't get into college, the gap between her and Lin Yi would be even bigger. Tang Yun understood this very well. Xinwen saw that Tang Yun didn't move after replying. She waited for a while, but there was still no movement. She couldn't help but leave the classroom to look for Tang Yun. Meng Yao and Yushu saw Xinwen as well, but Lin Yi couldn't see her because his back was facing them. Yao Yao sis, someone's snitching. Yushu said. Don't say that, it's not snitching, Meng Yao said, but she was a little nervous. Would Tang Yun come over? But so what if she did? She didn't do anything shameful. Meng Yao calmed down at the thought. Xinwen came to Tang Yun's window. Tang Yun didn't expect Xinwen to come looking for her personally. He was a little annoyed. What did it have to do with them? Wouldn't it be more awkward if she got involved? As if they were spying on Lin Yi? Yun, you're not going to pretend that you didn't see me, are you? Xinwen asked as she leaned on the windowsill. What are you doing? I want to study. Tang Yun waved the exercise book in her hand. Shall we go out for a walk? Wu Xinwen asked. What for? Tang Yin asked after some hesitation. She knew what Xinwen wanted her to do, it was to find Lin Yi. Since they're taking pictures, let's take some too. We're graduating soon, let's take some as a souvenir, Lu Xinwen said. No, I don't think it's a good idea. Tang Yun shook her head. What's wrong with that? After Lu Xinwen finished, she called Lin Yi. Lin Yi? With Lin Yi's sharp senses, how could he not know that Lu Xinwen went to find Tang Yun? Although Lin Yi had been taking pictures of Meng Yao and Yushu, he was still paying attention to what was happening over there. Hearing Lu Xinwen call him, Lin Yi knew that something was up again. He turned around with a smile. Huh? What's up? Tang Yun said that she hasn't taken a picture with you yet, Lu Xinwen said. When did I say that? Don't talk nonsense. Tang Yun was embarrassed. How could Lu Xinwen talk nonsense? Then let's take a picture together? The miss had spoken. At this time, Meng Yao felt that there was no need for her to be petty. It was just a picture, so what if Tang Yun came? If she didn't let Tang Yun come, it would make her seem petty. She was the miss, she had to fight and not fight. If she fussed over everything, she would be an unreasonable shrew. Let's go, Yun. If we start now, I don't believe that you can learn it. Lu Xinwen looked at the exercise book in Tang Yun's hands. Seemed to be the same handwriting as before. Tang Yun hadn't touched it at all. She was using a carbon pen before, but now she was using a blue ballpoint pen. Tang Yun was dragged out of the classroom by Lu Xinwen. Tang Yun didn't hesitate anymore. Indeed, she hadn't taken a picture with Lin Yi before. The two met in Songshan's first school. If they didn't take a picture together, it would be a pity. Maybe she would regret not keeping a piece of her memory? Lin Yi, I'll take a picture for you too? Lu Xinwen took the camera from Lin Yi's hand. I'm not done yet. Yushu wasn't happy, but she thought about it and ran to Lin Yi's side. Tang Yun stood on Lin Yi's right and Yushu stood on Lin Yi's left. I haven't taken a picture with Shield Bro yet, right? Tang Yun didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She was taking a picture with Lin Yi, what was she doing? Lu Xinwen was pissed as well. But what else could she say if Tang Yun didn't say anything? She took the camera and took a strange picture of the three of them. Yao Yao sis, you come too? Yushu waved at Meng Yao. Meng Yao wanted to go, but she didn't want to. Tang Yun was there, what was she going to do? Meng Yao, let's take a picture together? Are we friends? Can we have a souvenir? Tang Yun saw the miss awkwardness. Since she was generous enough to ask her to take a picture, why couldn't she do the same? Meng Yao hesitated and walked over. She thought about it and stood next to Yushu. Lu Xinwen pressed the shutter and the picture of the four of them came out. After taking the picture, Yushu wanted to join in the fun, but Meng Yao pulled her to the side, not letting her join in. She wanted to give Lin Yi and Tang Yun a chance to take a picture alone. Tang Yun and Lu Xinwen could take pictures with their phones, but the function was much worse than a digital camera. Their family's financial situation didn't allow them to buy a digital camera. Tang Yun's family had some money now, but they didn't have the time to buy one, or maybe Tang Yun didn't want to buy one. So after Lin Yi and Tang Yun took a picture together, Lu Xinwen took a picture with Tang Yun. In the end, Yushu suggested that the five of them take a picture together. It wasn't easy for the five of them to get to know each other. Chapter 744. The rise of House Zhonghe had just started to behave himself in school, and now someone was asking him to take a picture? Ruoming was about to open his mouth to curse when he raised his head to see Lin Yi and Tang Yun beside Xinwen, as well as the Miss and Yushu on the other side. He shut his mouth with a gah, thankful that he'd opened his mouth a little slower, otherwise he'd be in trouble. Other than Xinwen, he couldn't afford to offend any of these people. Fuck, he was so unlucky running into so many people after playing basketball. But on the surface, Zhou Ruoming put on a flattering smile. Isn't this boss Lin Yi and sis-in-law Tang Yun? Long time no see, looking for a photographer? I'm a professional. I've been to many private photo gatherings. Private photo? What's that? Tang Yun paused, not knowing what Zhou Ruoming was talking about. Zhou Ruoming realized that he had said something wrong and felt a little awkward. It's a private photo. Oh, Yao sis, is it a photo of a female celebrity in a dating show not wearing any clothes? Yushu asked, does he want to take nude photos of us? Ugh, no, that's not what I meant. Zhou Ruoming jumped. Taking nude photos of the women beside Lin Yi? Wasn't he looking to die? What I meant was, I'm very good at taking photos. Oh, go ahead then. Yushu didn't say anything else to Zhou Ruoming and stood beside Lin Yi, waving at Meng Yao. Yao sis, you stand on Shield Bros, right? Meng Yao didn't bother with Yushu standing beside her instead. Tang Yun was still standing next to Lin Yi and Xinwen was beside her. Zhou Ruoming took a group photo with the five of them and ran away with his tail between his legs. Who knew if Yushu would come after him? In the afternoon, most of the students came back. Enchanting Industries press conference was over, and all the parents and students knew what had happened. It was a black-hearted businessman who wanted to ruin the school's reputation and poison the cafeteria. As a result, the school had nothing to do with this incident. The police had already arrested the suspect, and the parents let their children go back to school. The homeroom teacher, Miss Liu, came back with a mission. She was one of the few people in the school who knew the inside story. Pin Liang was the culprit, but he was also the victim. It was because of losing a kidney that his mind was twisted. He was laughed at by his classmates, and that was why he went to such extremes. To put it bluntly, he lacked love, warmth, and care. As a result, Miss Liu organized a group of students to visit Pin Liang at the hospital. In fact, other than Yushu and Lin Yi who liked to laugh at Pin Liang, the others had more or less received benefits from him. Especially when Pin Liang invited them to the beach a while ago. Who would laugh at him? However, it was normal for them to look at him strangely. After all, everyone was curious. They wanted to know what was the difference between a person without a kidney and a normal person. Therefore, before this visit, Teacher Liu held a short class meeting for the whole class. Everyone, our classmate Zhong Pingliang has found a suitable kidney and just had a kidney transplant. He's now in the hospital. As a group, we should pay him a visit. After all, he's a member of our 3rd grade class 5. Miss Liu said. This activity is voluntary. If you want to go to the hospital, get ready and wait at the school gate. The school's bus is already parked there. If you don't want to go, you can study in the classroom. The bus came from the press conference, so they didn't have to wait. They got on the bus and went to the hospital. They were in their 3rd year of high school, so they didn't have much time to interact with each other. They listened to Miss Liu's words and stood up, ready to visit Pin Liang. Let me emphasize one point. You must not look down on Pin Liang. You must give him enough warmth and love. Let him feel the care of the group. Miss Liu reminded. Who wants to go through this kind of tragedy? Pin Liang is already pitiful enough. We can't let him be sad. Everyone nodded, thinking back to how they'd looked at Pin Liang with that weird gaze earlier. They wondered if that had hurt or confused Pin Liang in any way. Meng Yao didn't want to visit Pin Liang. It would be better if he died. Why would she care about him? But as the Miss of Enchanting Industries, the daughter of the school's chairman, she couldn't not go. How would people think of her if she didn't go? Even if she didn't care, she had to think about her father's reputation. She couldn't let people say that Pingzhan's daughter was cold and heartless. She didn't even visit her classmate in the hospital. So, although Meng Yao was unwilling, she still stood up with Shu and left the classroom. Linny didn't care. It was Meng Yao's decision. If the miss went, he would go. If she didn't, why should he go? This was the second time the whole class came to visit Pin Liang. Fabai wasn't surprised when he received the call from Miss Liu. He knew that his plan had worked. His son had successfully deceived the police and the school's sympathy. He had turned the suspect into the victim. Pinliang, you are getting more and more mature. You did well this time. It's a happy ending. Fabai hung up and praised his son. Your classmate is coming to the hospital to see you. He's on the way. Of course. How can a person grow without setbacks? I was too naive. I was played by Mengyao and Yushu. Pinliang nodded. I won't be so stupid in the future. And it's good that you can think it through. Fabai patted Pinliang's shoulder. You're ready to give up on Mengyao, right? It's too early to say whether I'll give up or not. But when I soar into the sky, Mengyao will be my toy. Pinliang laughed coldly. Since she never liked me and played me like a monkey, I won't let her go so easily. He could only invite Pinliang's classmates and teacher in first. Otherwise it would be bad if the police got suspicious. There were even police patrolling the corridor. Welcome to visit Pinliang. Fabai suppressed his doubts and let Lin Yi and the others into the ward. Pinliang was lying on his side on the bed. He was originally welcoming his teacher and classmates with a smile. He was about to say a few words of gratitude when he suddenly saw Lin Yi among them. He was stunned. Didn't Lin Yi's kidney get removed? He should be lying in the hospital now. How could he still come to visit him? How was it possible? Oh Pinliang classmate, I heard that you are now a healthy person with 2 kidneys. As long as it doesn't reject you, you will be the same as us. You don't have to worry about it. Yushu wanted to mock Pinliang, but when she remembered what Professor Lu said before, she changed it to comfort him. However, this consolation sounded a little awkward. If it didn't reject him, then it would be the same. But what about rejection? Thank you. Pinliang's mind wasn't on Yushu's sarcasm at all. Even if Yushu scolded his mother right now, he wouldn't feel much. At this moment, all his thoughts were on Lin Yi. Did Lin Yi give his kidney to him or not? If he didn't, then whose kidney did it belong to? Wouldn't that mean rejection? He suddenly remembered what Yushu said before. As long as it didn't reject him, then he would be the same as them. Was Yushu hinting at something? Pinliang knew that Yushu and Lin Yi had a close relationship. Did Yushu know something then? Was she hinting at him that his kidney wasn't Lin Yi's? In other words, it wouldn't be a match and there would be rejection soon? At that thought, Pinliang's mind went blank and his eyes started to glaze over. The illusion from before was completely gone at this moment. He was delusional enough to think that he could become a golden class master after getting Lin Yi's kidney, but now it seemed like his kidney wouldn't be a match. Pinliang didn't know how he'd gotten through all this time. His classmates and teachers were trying to comfort him, but he didn't hear a single word they said. His mind was filled with thoughts of Lin Yi, his kidney, and Yushu's innuendo. His kidney wasn't Lin Yi's? Now it seemed like it was 80% true. Otherwise, Lin Yi wouldn't be so kind as to visit him after his kidney was removed. He might even kill him. But Lin Yi didn't do that, and he even came to visit him openly. Then wouldn't he be? Pinliang was still lying on the bed with a sluggish gaze after the teacher and students left. No one knew what he was thinking. The teacher and students thought that Pinliang was too weak after the surgery and didn't want to talk. They didn't think much of it and left the ward after a simple glance at him. Lin Yi looked at Pinliang meaningfully as he left. The kid's kidneys weren't showing any signs of rejection yet, were they? Zhong Fabai frowned. Obviously, he also thought of this tragic possibility. His son's kidney wasn't Lin Yi's. Did he get the wrong kidney? But Zhang Wen's kidney trafficking organization had been annihilated. It was impossible to find out who his son's kidney belonged to now. He didn't even know who to look for. Even if Zhang Wen wasn't caught, he must have escaped and he wouldn't be able to contact him. Zhong Fabai sighed. Why was his son's life so hard? He finally got a kidney and it still didn't match. Moreover, he snuck into the ward under the protection of the police and almost killed him. If he didn't die this time, it was hard to say whether he would die the next time. Lu Buojia knew how ruthless those people were. Although this psychopathic murderer didn't say anything, he was definitely sent by those people to silence him. There was no doubt about it. Since he was going to die either way, Lu Buojia might as well cooperate with the police. He knew that as long as he was alive, those people wouldn't let him go. He might as well sentence him to prison. It was safer. Lu Bujia's condition stabilized. Lingshan and Yutian came in and sat not far from Lu Bujia's bed. Lu Bujia, you still don't want to say anything? Lingshan looked at Bujia on the sickbed. She'd thought that he was the victim, but now it seemed that it was just an internal conflict. If you weren't lucky enough to meet a miracle doctor, do you think you'd still be alive? Lingshan's words weren't polite, but there was no need to be polite to people like Lu Bujia. Not only did he cause Lin Yi to lose a lot of qi, but he also caused a lot of trouble and confusion for the police. After Lu Bujia woke up, he heard from the doctor about the time he was unconscious and the situation. He was completely relying on the ventilator to maintain his life. Once the ventilator was removed, he would die. All in all, the hospital couldn't do anything about his injury. The police invited an expert from somewhere to treat Lu Bujia, and that was how Lu Bujia was able to get out of danger. You guys, how much do you know? Lu Bujia asked with a bit of hope in his heart. He didn't know how much the police knew, so he could choose what he wanted to say. The tomb raiding organization code-named couple has been arrested. Qin Yutian didn't say that the two leaders of the couple were killed. Instead, he said that they were caught. This was to give Lu Bujia psychological pressure that the police had found evidence of his crimes. According to their confession, you are also one of the tomb robbers, and you are also involved in their next plan. This time your family was killed because of the other tomb robbers, right? Lu Bujia didn't know that Qin Yutian was right. Yutian didn't say it in detail, but he basically said the truth. But the more he said it, the more Lu Bujia thought that the police already knew most of the situation. After all, the couple was arrested and the police would be able to find out everything about him. Couple thief? What do? Tomb raiding? What does that have to do with me? Lu Bujia tried to ask. He didn't believe that the couple would give him up as soon as they were arrested. This didn't make sense. He didn't have any conflict of interest with them. There were rules in the tomb raiding business. If you went in and bit people, then you might attract revenge from your peers. Even if you went in, you still have family, right? If they couldn't get revenge on you, they would get revenge on your family. Therefore, after many grave robbers were caught, they would only confess to their own problems. As for the other grave robber organizations and their sales channels, they would not say much. Otherwise, their families outside might very well incur the wrath of others. Haha, you're thinking that it's unrealistic for the couple to only give you up, right? Lingshan had been a police officer for many years, and she knew how to read people's expressions. She knew what Lu Bujia was thinking just by looking at his expression. Chapter 747. Chapter 0747. Seeing Lin Yi, he believed that even if the couple mentioned him, they wouldn't say too much. They couldn't even explain their own crimes, so why would they mention him? In fact, the couple didn't mention anyone else, but we found a work handbook from them. There are some clues in it. Qin Yutian smiled and passed a copy to Lu Bujia. Lu Bujia's face changed when he saw the copy of the notes Qin Yutian handed over. Lu Bujia's name was written on the copy of the notebook, and it was also stated that he was investigating the tomb with the grave robbers. Of course, these words alone weren't enough to serve as solid evidence. However, the key point was that Lu Bujia didn't know that the couple had been killed during their resistance. Therefore, as long as the police interrogated the couple about Lu Bujia, they wouldn't be able to hide anything. At this moment, Lu Bujia didn't plan to hide anymore. He couldn't hide it anymore, so he might as well tell them everything. The handbook is correct. The psychopathic murderer was probably hired by the Red Tower tomb robbers to kill me. Lu Bujia sighed. Red Tower grave robbers? This tomb was discovered by you Red Tower grave robbers in Old Hay? Qin Yutian asked. It shouldn't be said that it was discovered by us, but by Red Tower, Old Hay and Red Tower. Lu Bujia shook his head. I'm just an expert. Because I know a little about the tomb's mechanisms and secret passages, Red Tower would always call me along when they do something. They would also give me some of the loot, so it can be said that we're working together. Why did they want to kill you this time? Qin Yutian asked. I've seen this tomb. It's very dangerous inside and I don't have full confidence that I can open it. But based on my past experience, there must be treasures under the danger. I'm planning to study it carefully after I come back and find a way to open it. Lu Bujia said. This has nothing to do with killing them. Qin Yutian frowned. The people from the Red Tower think that I want to take it all for myself. In fact, I do have this thought. Lu Bujia smiled bitterly. We've worked together for so many years. Who doesn't know each other? He guessed what I was thinking and was afraid that I would leak the information or that I would want to take the treasures of the tomb for myself, so he wanted to silence me. Tell us the location of the tomb and how to solve it, Qin Yutian said. You want to enter the tomb? Lu Bujia was stunned. That's impossible. You don't have a professional. If you go in, I'm afraid you won't be able to come out. You don't have to worry about that. Ling Shan interrupted him. You just need to cooperate with the police. Your attitude will determine your sentence. Okay. Lu Bujia didn't say anything else and nodded. Since he chose to cooperate, naturally he would cooperate. He knew that with what he did before, even if he didn't get a death sentence, it would be a life sentence. Even if there was a life sentence, he was already in his 40s. It was hard to say if he could get out of prison while he was still alive. Before he went to prison, there were some things he had to tell Ling Shan. He may be a grave robber, but he was a person who knew how to repay kindness. Last time, the person who saved me from a psycho murderer was one of your people? Lu Bujia asked. Why do you ask? Ling Shan paused. I have around 30 million and I took out 10 million to thank him. Lu Bujia said. To thank him for saving my life. Your money belongs to Black Gold. They'll confiscate it, Ling Shan said faintly. No, my money comes from legitimate sources. I write articles for magazines and I work as a guide and specialist for all sorts of professional exploration groups. There's an account book in my study and I've recorded all my earnings. Lu Bujia smiled. As for the antiques, I didn't sell any of them, they're all in the basement of my house. You'll know when you see them. Oh. Ling Shan paused and nodded. If that's the case, the police will consider respecting your wishes. Also, I'll take out another 10 million to thank the doctor who saved my life today, Lu Bujia said. The last 10 million will be enough for me to live on if I can get out of prison while I'm still alive. My wife and kids are gone and there's no need for that much money. I might as well give it to the people who helped me. If I'm sentenced to death, you guys can donate the remaining 10 million to the Archaeology Research Institute. It'll be my last wish as an archaeologist. Ling Shan didn't think that Lu Bujia wasn't a sinner, but that he still had a kind heart and conscience. When she thought about it, the crimes he committed weren't completely heartless. The person who saved you that day and today is the same person. Ling Shan didn't want to lie to Lu Bujia. Are you sure you want to give him the 20 million? The same person? Ling Shan's words surprised Lu Bujia as well. He's a doctor. You can say yes, but you can also say no. Ling Shan didn't answer the question directly. Can I see him? Lu Bujia pondered for a moment and suddenly asked. You want to see him? What's the matter? Ling Shan was curious about Lu Bujia's request. He saved me and I want to give him some benefits. Lu Bujia said. Can you help me contact him? What kind of benefits? Ling Shan asked curiously. It doesn't have anything to do with my case, so I don't have to tell you. Lu Bujia was a bachelor as well, it didn't matter if he went in or not. Alright, I'll contact him for you, but it's not up to me to decide whether or not you want to see him. Ling Shan nodded. If this benefit was given to someone else, she might ask, but since Lu Bujia said he wanted to give something to Lin Yi, she didn't want to ask. She still wanted Lin Yi to get some benefits or else Lin Yi would lose a lot of pure qi. Lu Bujia nodded. I'm tired, I need to rest. I'll give you the information when I recover. Ling Shan and Yutian didn't stay long and left the room. Chapter 748. Give you some benefits. Perhaps he's thought things through after this life and death experience. Yutian said. People who've been through life and death are always different. Maybe. Ling Shan nodded as she dialed Lin Yi's number. Lin Yi had just finished visiting Pinliang when he got a call from Ling Shan. Sup? Lu Bujia woke up and wants to see you, Ling Shan said. Wants to see me? Why do you want to see me? Lin Yi couldn't understand why Bujia wanted to see him. He said he wanted to thank you and give you some benefits? Ling Shan said. He said he wanted to give you 20 million as a reward, but I told him you're a doctor, so he wants to see you and give you some benefits. Oh. Lin Yi was a little puzzled. What kind of benefits would Bujia give him? But since it was something good, Lin Yi had no reason to reject it. He'd saved him twice and he didn't get anything in return. Is he still in the hospital? Yes, he's in the same room, Ling Shan said. Where are you? I'm at the hospital too. I'll go over now. Lin Yi said and hung up. After that, Lin Yi sent the Miss and Yushu a message, telling them that he had other things to do in the hospital and wouldn't be going back to school with the car. Yao, why Shield Bro so busy every day? Yushu felt that Lin Yi was busy every day, busy with all sorts of things. I'm not sure. Maybe he's not a follower at all, and it was just a coincidence that he appeared in the villa. Meng Yao realized that she didn't understand Lin Yi at all. From a migrant worker to a mysterious master. Oh, then will he really leave in the future? Yushu was a little disappointed. Probably. We're all grown up now and we need to learn how to protect ourselves. We shouldn't always trouble other people. Meng Yao looked out the window at the direction Lin Yi disappeared in, a little sad. But I don't want to grow up, Yao. Yushu shook her head. You have to think about it even if you don't want to. You're not young anymore. Meng Yao pinched Yushu's cheeks. See, you won't cry even if I pinch you, so you're not a kid anymore. Woo. I'm crying. Yushu started crying. Meng Yao ignored her and turned away, deep in thought. Lin Yi saw Lingshan and Yutian outside Bujia's room. Lin Yi. Lingshan walked over to Lin Yi. You're here? Lu Bujia said he wanted to rest for a while. I'll go check on him. No need, I'll just go in. Lin Yi shook his head. Rest? Lu Bujia had rested for so many days, so he must be very energetic now. Lingshan didn't say anything after hearing what Lin Yi said. Since Lin Yi did this, he must have his reasons. Lin Yi pushed the door open and entered Bujia's room. As expected, Bujia wasn't resting. Instead, he was scribbling something on a piece of paper. He froze when he saw Lin Yi. Who are you? You're looking for me? Lin Yi didn't answer Bujia's question. You're the person who saved me twice? Should she do something? Lingshan felt a headache. Chapter 749. Trouble again. Lingshan. Yutian saw Lingshan staring blankly at Lin Yi's back, feeling bitter. Lingshan paused, coming back to her senses. What's wrong? Nothing, Mr. Lin's already gone. Yutian smiled. I understand. Lingshan sighed. I'll go back to the police station first. You staying here? I'll stay here. Yutian sighed. I don't know if the Red Tower tomb robbers will send more people after Lu Bujia. I've already contacted the local police and they'll send people to help me. Lingshan nodded and went back to the police station, but got a call from Director Chen on the way back. The contents of the call, on the other hand, made Lingshan very depressed. Today, the city leader was secretly investigating the price of food in the market, but his phone and wallet were stolen by thieves. This thief had reached a certain level of arrogance. Logically speaking, it wasn't the criminal police's turn to deal with thieves. The local police stations would deal with it. But this time the city's leaders were alerted, and Chief Chen also pointed out that the thieves in Songshan had formed a group of thieves, carrying out organized and disciplined criminal activities. This needed the criminal police to investigate and deal with. There was no deadline given, but it was a case that the city leader was supervising. How could they not solve it as soon as possible? Lingshan felt that she was so unlucky. She hadn't even dealt with one problem and this one was coming. There was no end to this. She was the new captain of the criminal police, and she didn't even see this many cases when she was the vice captain. This group of thieves had been formed for a long time too. Why did they have to deal with them now? But Director Chen had said it himself, so what else could she do? She could only carry out the order unconditionally. However, this thief group had very strict organizational discipline. It was impossible to hurt the entire thief group by simply catching a few thieves. Might even alert the enemy. Lingshan drove the car, depressed, thinking about how to deal with this group. She thought about it for a long time but still couldn't come up with anything. The normal thieves were all dealt with by the police station, and they didn't have records with the criminal police. Lingshan couldn't think of anything right now, so she could only go back and organize the information. Subconsciously, Lingshan took out her phone, but smiled bitterly when she took it out. How did I become dependent on him? You want to call Lin Yi whenever you're in trouble? In the past, she'd only call Lin Yi if there was something she couldn't handle, but now, no matter what happened, the first person she thought of was Lin Yi. Forget it, I'll just fight my way over and try it out. Lingshan's thinking was simple. Asking was better than not asking at all. Troubling Lin Yi had become a habit anyways, and she felt like she owed him a lot of favors. She didn't feel pressured anymore. Linny got a call from Lingshan not long after he left the hospital. What is it now? Linny picked up, wondering why Lingshan was calling him again so soon. Lin-Yi, do you know anyone from the thief group? Lingshan asked, hoping to give it a try. Thief group? Oh. Lin-Yi said straightforwardly. It was an answer Lingshan had expected, but she was still a little disappointed. You really don't know? Lingshan didn't want to give up. She felt that Lin-Yi was omnipotent, and whenever she asked him for help he'd always solve the problem perfectly. Nope, why would I know them? Lin-Yi was getting impatient. Is there something you need? Yes. You're a good person, don't get angry. Lingshan jumped, and her voice became soft and pitiful. Then can you help Miss Silly keep an eye out for them? It's a thief group. Oh, I'll tell you when I see them. Lin-Yi hung up the phone, amused. This Lingshan really came to him for everything? Lingshan hung up angrily. She'd tell him if she saw them? Didn't that mean she didn't say anything? Who would see a thief group for no reason? Lingshan was still angry when her eyes focused on something not far from the road. A cute girl was currently putting her evil hand into the pocket of a man with a big belly. Very quickly the girl got it. She took out a big wallet and walked to the side with a smile on her face. Lingshan smiled coldly in her heart. She'd walked all over the place but found it by chance. This girl was a repeat offender. She'd met her a few times before but she never managed to catch her. She wanted to see if she could get any information about the thief group from her mouth. Lingshan stopped the car by the roadside and got out, slowly approaching the girl. Xiaoke was in a really good mood today. She saw a rich and heartless fatty get out of the BMW and kick the little girl to the curb because a little girl selling flowers blocked his way. He ignored the little girl's cries and left after parking the car. The passers-by were angry but didn't dare say anything, so Xiaoke locked her target on this rich and heartless fatty. The fatty's alertness was really bad and Xiaoke got him easily. She opened the wallet and saw that he had quite a lot of money. He counted and found that it was about 7,000 or 8,000 yuan. Xiaoke didn't expect her luck to be this good. She'd run into so many fat sheep these 2 days. Although she met a strong person yesterday who stole her money, she was still very lucky. However, as happy as she was, she didn't let her guard down. What happened with Lin-Yi yesterday reminded her that she couldn't let her guard down. So when Lingshan approached, Xiaoke sensed it. Xiaoke casually put the money into her own wallet and threw the wallet into the trash can. Just when Lingshan was about to get close to her, Xiaoke turned and ran. Xiaoke, stop right there. Lingshan was about to explode. She thought that she could catch Xiaoke when she wasn't paying attention, but she didn't expect Xiaoke to be so vigilant. She ran away the moment she got close. Bye Lingshan sis. Xiaoke turned around and made a face before disappearing at the end of the street. Lingshan didn't chase after her because she wouldn't be able to catch up even if she did. She'd chased her twice before and she still couldn't catch Xiaoke. Xiaoke. Just you wait. Lingshan stared at the direction Xiaoke disappeared in, not angry at all. Chapter 750. Zhong Pingliang's tragedy in the hospital. Zhong Pingliang's medical report came out very quickly. The results shocked Fabai and Zhong Pingliang. The kidney showed signs of rejection and necrosis. It had to be removed as soon as possible. The kidney is damaged? Zhong Pingliang looked at the report in disbelief. Fabai, on the other hand, was smoking and pacing back and forth in the ward. This was the worst result. Although he had expected it, he still had some hope when he expected it. But now there was no hope at all. Fuck Jiangwen my ass. He tricked me. Zhong Pingliang was so angry that he threw the pillow on the bed to the floor. Pingliang, don't be rash. You're still a patient. Don't get angry. Fabai was also very angry. This Jiangwen, if you didn't want to replace Pingliang's kidney, then why did you have to replace it with someone who was not a match? Of course, Fabai didn't believe that Jiangwen didn't know about it. In the doctor's words, 2 days of rejection meant that the kidney wasn't a match at all. Didn't they do a matching test? Dad, what should I do? The kidney I just replaced is damaged? Zhong Pingliang was in despair. I thought I would be a normal person in the future, but now. No matter what, we should listen to the doctor and remove this kidney. Otherwise, the damage will be even worse if the kidney dies in the body. Fabai sighed and made a decision. As for Jiangwen, we will have plenty of chances to deal with him in the future. But I really don't want to be a person with only one kidney anymore. It's too painful. Zhong Pingliang had wanted to become a master with a golden class kidney, but now, it was as if he had been struck by lightning. All his hopes were shattered. We can look for a kidney slowly, Fabai said. If we work for Master Bing, we will have a lot of money in the future. With money, we won't have to worry about not being able to buy a good kidney. The most important thing now is to remove this kidney. That's the only way. Zhong Pingliang clenched his fist. Zhang Wen, you and I are enemies. You have made me suffer 3 times. Including this nephrectomy, Zhong Pingliang had been cut 3 times. Since the decision was made, Zhong Fabai quickly contacted the hospital to perform a nephrectomy on Pinliang. The police, on the other hand, didn't suspect anything. After all, illegal agents scammed people all the time, and Zhong Pingliang was just unlucky. Took him so much effort to get a new kidney, and it was a mismatch. It died immediately. Of course, Zhang Wen was lying in the ward with a face full of pain. He wanted to contact Zhong Pingliang, but he couldn't. The kidney was in Zhong Pingliang's body, and he didn't know if he could get it back. Although Zhang Wen could use House Anne's connections to get him another kidney after leaving the hospital, a new kidney wouldn't be as good as the original one. He still didn't know that Pinliang's kidney was about to be removed. Fan's mother shook her head. As they were talking, Mrs. Tang's phone rang. Let me take this first. Mrs. Tang looked at the caller ID in confusion. It was an unfamiliar number. Mrs. Tang didn't have many calls. Other than Tang Yun and Tang Juqing, no one else would call her. Hello? Oh. Mrs. Tang picked up the phone. Hello, is this Miss Wang Yujie? Su Jiaonong tried to make his voice sound gentle. Yes, and you are? Mrs. Tang froze. She didn't know who the person on the other side of the phone was. Hello, Miss Wang. I am Su Jiaonong, the project manager of Qibing Real Estate, Su Jiaonong said politely. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.